Hey everyone, as mentioned in the daily financial news, we are so lucky to have Matt the mortgage guy speaking with us today because as you know, the CPI data came out hot. The print was 4.2%. People were whispering about a number with a 3 on it. It blew right past that to 4.2. So I'm like, man, we are so lucky to have Matt the mortgage guy because of all my experts, Matt is going to see it first, feel it first, and I'm guessing he had a pretty interesting morning. But let's ask him. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great because of the fact that like I've had a gut feeling that rates aren't going to stay as low, and I've said it on video, so
Yeah.
there's proof that I've felt that, and so I've literally locked everything. And different folks have different ways they do business, and I've been telling clients for probably the last month, if you like it, lock it. And so with 46 or 48 loans in the pipeline, I'm not scrambling on a day like today. Like who's locked, who's not. Like everybody's locked. And yesterday we got beat up in mortgage bonds, like 30 to 35 basis points at most lenders. We're going to have another 30 to 35 basis point hit today. I'm looking at, just a ticker. I'll have this ticker up today, not every day, but today, I'll be keeping an eye. And, as of this second of this recording, we're down 31 basis points on the day. And so, it's here. And I don't know how much I voiced it, but it was one of those things where like, who thinks we can't have inflation when we're just printing as much money as we're printing? It's gotta come. And even now, like I'm sure you hear the stuff where it's like, oh, it's just transitory. Like this isn't inflation that's going to stick, right? It's just transitory. We can print trillions and stuff, and it's probably not going to have that much effect. Everything's going to be fine. Take your medicine.
Trust me, it'll be I hate that. Trust me, nonsense.
Take your stimulus medicine. Everyone's going to be fine. Just go back to bed.
Yeah. Well, let's just put that. Let's put that vocabulary from your industry to individual speak. Right. You talked about 3,500 basis points or 35 basis points yesterday, likely another 35 today. What does that mean for somebody calling you if they wanted to get a mortgage on Monday at 8 a.m. versus, Wednesday at 10 a.m.? I mean, it's a different rate today, all else being equal.
Right. And that's a good question too, because people will be like, what are you talking about in basis points? And, the basis point speak is mortgage guy speak for the general public. And for general knowledge, let's just call it that every 1/8 of a percentage point is about 75 basis points. And the funny part is, Mike, that changes. Like 6 months ago, 9 months ago, I feel like every 1/8 was only 50 basis points, and lenders are just pricing loans differently. I really haven't even dug into or tried to, hypothesize on why, but I'm seeing about a 60 to 75 basis point spread between every 1/8, meaning that if your specific loan scenario, you were doing a rate and term refi and your loan to value is this, let's just call it 3%. If it was 3% on Monday, these 2 days of 30 and 35 basis points add up to 65 basis points. You're 3.125. You're an 1/8 up. And, as much as people say, oh, it's an 1/8, it's not that big of a deal. You do that 4 times over and now you're 3.5%. And going from 3 to 3.5% for a lot of people is a big deal, especially when you're borrowing $400,000, $500,000.
Yeah, well, an 1/8 of a point is enough to make a difference for some. But yeah, when you get a total of a 1/2 a point, that's when you start turning, yes answers into no answers, right? You may not lose a lot of people with just an 1/8, but you'll lose a lot of people at a 1/2 a point.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I'm going to retract my statement and say 60 basis points per 1/8, because if we moved 300 basis points, that would be 5/8 of on percentage wise. Right. So maybe it's closer to about 60 basis points between every 1/8 of a rate. And so, rates are up. And here's the thing too, is that the fact that mortgage bonds are up 65 basis points, lenders might reprice and get 80 basis points worse. It doesn't mean that specific lender's gonna one-to-one match that. And so I would bet rate sheet Monday to Wednesday, lenders are up between an 1/8 and a 1/4, and some will be up a full quarter, where you could get a 2.875. And that was the conversations I was having, where it's like, hey, listen, if you like it, lock it. And I already know we had a big wave where February was great for pricing, and then the second half of February, things fell off. And people right now are the ones who are like, oh, I missed it last time, but now I'm in. And there's still a ton because my business is just a small version of the whole, refinance market. They're like, they're going to miss it again. And then they're going to be like, oh gosh, it's like, how many dips can we have? How many sub 3% opportunities can you get while you're sitting at a 4.25 on your $400,000 loan? And I mean, I had those conversations yesterday where I'm not in a position where I'm like pounding the phones and trying to get people to refinance. I think a lot of mortgage people are probably in a great position where there's a lot of business and there's no desperation. And so I've got past clients that I'd love to help, but I'm not going to bother them and pester them if they're not looking to do anything. But then when I see some of the statements, I go, holy crap, you got a 4.25 and you're paying mortgage insurance? What are you doing? Let's and what'll happen more than likely with a lot of these people is, we've gone up a quarter, but it still looks good. It's 4.25 to 3.25 and $270 in mortgage insurance being removed. You're saving $5,500 a year, and it's only costing you $3,000. This thing pencils. It makes sense.
Yeah. Well, let me do you a favor right now. If you're in California and you have a mortgage today that's over 4%, it's your primary we're talking about here, and you're paying PMI, you need to reach out to Matt, the mortgage guy, today. If anybody in your family has a 30-year mortgage over 4% and paying PMI in California, you need to reach out to Matt, the mortgage guy. And how do you want them to do that, Matt?
I've got the perfect plan because this is what I've been doing, and I've been doing it with hundreds of people over the last few months. If you email Matt, M-A-T-T, at mattthemortgageguy.com, send a copy of your mortgage statement, send a guesstimate of your credit score and what you're looking to do. I think people really enjoy this too, because I don't need a full application. I don't need to pull your credit. I don't need to drag you through, a week's worth of underwriting to figure out if it makes sense. But if you send me those things, mortgage statement, guess of your credit score, and your plan, because some people will say, I want to refinance to a rate and term 30-year. Some people say, I want to take out $40,000 in cash to pay off this stuff. Whatever your plan is, then I put together a super detailed scenario, which literally mirrors a loan estimate. So there's nothing hiding. It's exactly what your loan docs may look like. And I send it back to folks, and I've built that system out where we're really efficient. I send a video. Here's exactly what it looks like. If you'd like to proceed, here's the link to the application. You fill out the application, upload your docs. Here's the people on my team that help in the front end.
Nice.
If it makes sense, great. If not, and I probably have made 500 of those videos. That's where awesome. I've seen it enough times where it's just, this one makes sense. And then, a little cost versus benefit analysis of me talking over the video where, it's about $2,900 between lender fee, title fee, appraisal. Yes, it costs something. Yes, it gets rolled into the loan. If you put that versus the $4,400 a year you're saving, you're breaking even in less than a year, cost versus benefit. This is something I personally would do, but you let us know. Any questions, reply all. Here's the link if you want to get started. And more often than not, people who are ready to get rolling say, yeah, that looks good. They press, they get started. Then they get initial loan disclosures. They go, that looks familiar. Well, our Excel spreadsheet mirrored it's just that easy.
That's awesome. Well, again, folks, let me say here, we'll dig in a little more. If you have a 4% 30-year owner occupied loan, 4% or above, and you're paying PMI, need to reach out to Matt at mattthemortgageguy.com and get this process started. So there you go. Hopefully your email blows up.
All right. Yeah. I'm happy to help. And those are easy. I feel like I'm really, really good at them because a lot of people make it super complicated. I don't have to get on the phone and sell you. And we don't have, I don't have to use fancy things where I tell you that you're going to pay $47,000 in total interest versus $72,000. I just want to give you the simple break even, because trust me, there's people that get on the phone. And I think right now what's happening, Mike, is there's so much staffed up mortgage companies out there that they are, I sign up for some of that stuff as market research. So I get the calls where it's robo dials now. And they're, asking me about my mortgages. And if there's any hint that I might be a deal, they transfer me to a live loan officer at, whatever call center they're in.
That's crazy. Yeah. So I'm curious. So first and foremost, you thought ahead, you like it, lock it. I love that statement. Did you get any new business today? Because again, I think rates are already up. I watched the 10-year, right? I look at a different thing than what you see, right? You're in the trenches, but the 10-year is up 0.062 already, which is pretty
168-ish or so. Yeah.
168.2, I think is the last thing I saw. But that's a pretty big move for, 2 or 3 hours.
Right. And I think that like with most stuff, there's a little bit of a delay.
Yeah.
people will hear this or see this, or they'll talk to somebody and like, oh gosh, rates are up a little bit, and then it'll come flooding in later. But we'll see how it changes, buyer sentiment, stuff like that. It's not necessarily enough yet. And I think we had a test, and I talked about this in another video I did, where we see the February to, we'll call it mid-March, where we ticked up 0.5%. And I really didn't see a lot of, buyer sentiment woes or a lot of people just throwing in the towel. I really feel like the average person, especially on the purchase side, was relatively unaffected.
Oh, cool.
275 to 3.25. And so they did good. A lot of them that just were unaffected kept charging, got in contract, got accepted, because then, month over month, they're seeing it's getting progressively harder to get in contract on a house.
Very, very cool. Well, any other closing thoughts, or how can people follow you? I know you have an excellent YouTube channel where you put out quality content.
Sure. Yeah. I'd love for people to pop on over, Matt the Mortgage Guy on YouTube. And I love it when they're like, oh, I found you on Zuber's channel. I'm here from Zuber because you've got a following that loves the heck out of you and trusts you. So when they come over, hopefully they find some value in the mortgage stuff I'm putting out. So yeah, closing thoughts are just that even with these little blips in the market, not saying it from a salesman perspective, but historically low. That's one of those cringe words where people like, stop saying historically low, because that's just like mortgage guy speak for like, great deal, guys, come on down. But really, low, but it's not going to be surprising if we're mid threes by the end of the year. It's not going to be surprising if next summer 30-year fixed is 4%. That sounds like the biggest, ugliest interest rate people have ever seen, but it's not that bad. But I think it's coming. I just think that anybody who thinks that rates will just stay sub 3% forever is in dreamland.
And that's, folks, we are actually going to do 2 videos with Matt the Mortgage Guy, and that is the topic for video number 2. Thanks, buddy.
Yep.